She's been spot on, literally, with every little move that this man has made. And it's a goddamn shame that some of you couldn't put your pride aside to listen to her message, because she would actually put us in a better position right now. And what we see going on overseas wouldn't be happening.
You know, I hate it when I have to admit that MAGA got something right, but damn it, MAGA, I have to admit you got this 100% absolutely freaking right, because you told me over and over again that if I vote for Kamala Harris, everything's gonna be in the crapper. The economy will be worse, job numbers will be worse, we will be less safe, we will go to war, we will be the laughingstock of the entire international community, you told me. And you know what? I did vote for Kamala Harris, and here we are.
It's so funny because like Kamala predicted this like 3 different fucking times, like so many times. She predicted this so many times. She said he is going to drag us into a war of choice. He's going to drag us to a war of choice. She said when they said they bombed the nuclear facilities, she said that is going to lead to a false sense of security that we do not have. And he does not have with Iran. That is why they were so angry at the UN. They were like, stop doing their uranium, because they didn't really destroy anything. And Iran is surrounded by mountains and terrain, and it is so big and massive, and it has 92 million people in it. Like, she kept warning us of this. She kept warning us. There wasn't a time she didn't warn us. Like, I remember when people were saying she doesn't have enough foreign affairs background. She doesn't have enough national security background.
Remember when she said this?
He is saying that he would use the military to go after them.
And then they told you that it was a lie?
That they are now talking about deploying 1,500 military.
She warned us.
Kamala Harris was right about everything.
He will target and punish those who disagree with him or refuse to bend to his will. He calls these Americans the enemy within, and says that he would use the American military to go after American citizens, journalists whose stories he doesn't like, nonpartisan election officials who refuse to cheat by finding.
Kamala Harris was right about everything.
America, you're a joke. You're actually a joke. I just went to the grocery store. Tell me why I spent $50 for 2 bags of groceries. I'm not even joking. I'm talking eggs, milk, bread, the basics of the basics. It's beginning to feel impossible just to survive in this country. Forget the American dream, forget thriving. I'm trying to survive. On top of just trying to get the literal essentials and paying that amount, I'm also in so much debt from student loans, from my car, literally so much debt.
Kamala Harris was always right. When are we going to accept that Kamala Harris was always right, no matter how you feel about her, no matter how you feel about her being a vice president, no matter how you feel about her morality, her skill set, no matter how you feel about her as a person? Kamala Harris was always right, and every step that Donald Trump has taken, she not only predicted, she said it would happen, and she gave us a play-by-play on the other options in case he wouldn't even do that one. Kamala Harris predicted the war. Kamala Harris predicted what he would do in the first 100 days when he got in office. Kamala Harris predicted how he would take government jobs and he would tear down the government officials. Kamala Harris literally predicted what he would do with immigration, even though he said it 50 million motherfucking times. Kamala Harris said how he would blame Biden, and Kamala Harris, every step of his way, probably until he got off the motherfucking office. Every single step, every single move, down to the detailed points. She knew everything was going to happen the way that he said it was going to happen, and people still voted for him. That in itself not only deserves praise, but it also deserves a level of understanding and empathy, because we have to remember, no one else was calling Donald Trump on his bullshit even at that time. Now everybody is having revelations. Some people need to start saying thank you and accepting the fact.
Imagine voting for a candidate, believing he's going to fix everything for you, and then months later, starting to wonder whether you made a wrong choice by voting for that candidate. That is a conversation now surrounding some Trump voters and the MAGA supporters. And some MAGA voters also asking a provocative question that did America overlooked the Kamala Harris? Because Kamala Harris was also on the ballot. Did they overlook her? Did they misjudge her? Did they misinterpret her? Was Kamala Harris actually the better choice for you guys? Or are some voters simply experiencing bias remorse after seeing the consequences of the political direction they supported themselves? Let's dive watch some videos here, then we'll be back with our reaction.
All right, Trumpers, come and get me. Can you imagine what it would have been like to have Kamala Harris as the president right now versus all the chaos that Donald Trump has already got stirred up? Like, it would have been 10-1. There wouldn't have been none of this getting rid of the FBI. There wouldn't have been putting Pete Hegseth over the Department of the Pentagon. There wouldn't have been all this getting rid of FEMA and putting the education back to the states. It would have been a whole lot more peace and calm, and it would have been more unifying. And not only that, really trying to draw unifying with these other countries that we deal with and that we import their goods, because we can't afford to buy American shit, because us Americans, we require too much fucking money. I mean, we've talked about this 100 times now. We can't go out here and buy an American-made damn refrigerator with American workers because the shit would be $20,000. They have to be made and manufactured, and the parts have to be comes from other places to make it affordable over here because we require so much pay because it costs so much to live in America. So at the end of the day, Kamala and Joe Biden was doing a great job. Kamala would have done probably a better job because she had a great agenda she wanted to put out and get in a line. And look, at the end of the day, the biggest takeaway is we wouldn't have had a criminal in office. We wouldn't have had a sex offender in office. We wouldn't have had somebody that is putting someone else in charge like Elon Musk doing all these stupid salutes and all this shit. Like, it's just fucking chaos with this guy. So I hope this midday kind of update situation here does you some good, MAGA, to really show you how bad you fucked us. But the video that I've...
So, you finally woke up and decided to stop supporting MAGA and walk away from the whole cult. Good. Congratulations on getting out of the political escape room that has always had the lights on and the doors unlocked. And you did all of that, but what now? Are you expecting forgiveness, sympathy, and a hug for, realizing that your vote affected millions of people, including yourself? Boo-hoo, I'm sorry to tell you, but tough shit. See, this is a moment where I'm going to say liberals, leftists, and everybody that associates with Democrats were right for however, 10 years that we've been saying that this guy is a detriment to everything that America stands for, including the Republican Party and MAGA movement as a whole. Oh, and by the way, your vote was likely not a one-time thing. It was from 2016, 2020, and then 2024. And now you're realizing that Trump is such a detriment to America that you're now expecting sympathy without any consequences. Yeah, if that's what you're expecting, then get fucked royally and viciously. And I don't mean that jokingly, I mean that seriously and literally. What some of you are failing to realize is that you don't get an award for participating in the Making America Great Again movement just because you bought into the idea that he was going to own the libs, he was going to make America great again, no new wars, when he backtracked on everything that he was campaigning on and then did the exact opposite. And now, all of a sudden, when it's affecting you and you didn't care about anybody else, again, now you're expecting sympathy? Get fucked. I really don't care if people want to return back to sensible conservatism where we can agree to disagree, but it's to the betterment of this nation. And next time, if the election comes around in 2028, everybody that thinks that Trump was such a bad thing, you better start singing a different tune, because that means all of his entire administration that is now thinking of this idea about nominating themselves for the 2028 election in the Republican primary, fuck every single one of them. If you want to return to a sensible nation, then you better vote Democrat next election. Do not cry to us how blind you were. Go still talk to the people that are in the cult, and maybe vote next time like you understand consequences. And there's a lovely little quote. You are entitled to change. You are not entitled to forgiveness. The reality of your vote having actual consequences must suck at this.
Kamala Harris was right about everything. Russia is giving information to Iran. Russia is giving information to Iran about U.S. warships, aircraft, other assets in the region. U.S. intelligence knows this. Kamala Harris said that these dictators would eat Trump for breakfast or for lunch, whatever. And MAGA laughed at her, and MAGA acted like their God King is this tough businessman who can strike deals with anyone. And Trump has always said Putin is that they have a good relationship, they're buddies, acting like he knows how to control him. No, it's the other way around. Putin knows how to control Trump, and he always has. And when Trump was asked about the U.S., when he was asked about Russia giving information to Iran, his response was, What a stupid question. What a stupid question. Are we great yet, MAGA? Is this America first? Acknowledging that someone who is supposed to be an ally of the president, right? They're supposedly have a good relationship according to Trump. Giving information to our enemy. Is this what you voted for? This the art of the deal?
Want a military that is loyal to the United States Constitution. He wants a military that is loyal to him. He wants a military who will be loyal to him personally. One that will obey his orders even when he tells them to break the law or abandon their oath to the Constitution of the United States. In just the past week, Donald Trump has repeatedly called his fellow Americans the enemy from within, and even said that he would use the United States military to go after American citizens. And let's be clear about who he considers to be the enemy from within. Anyone who refuses to bend a knee or dares to criticize him would qualify, in his mind, as the enemy within, like judges, like journalists, like nonpartisan election officials.
A video is making its way around TikTok right now, and it's gotten under a lot of people's skin. A man stares directly into the camera and says, with every ounce of energy he's got, that anytime someone opens their mouth and says they didn't vote for what's happening in this country, they need to follow it up with 3 words. Kamala was right. And the thing is, that video didn't just get a few likes and disappear. With millions of views, tens of thousands of comments, stitches, duets, and response videos, it's safe to say the video blew up. What makes this moment different from the usual partisan back and forth is that the people saying Kamala was right aren't just Democrats. Some of them voted for Trump, some of them sat the election out. And now, as the war in Iran enters its 2nd month, as the economy sheds jobs, as tariffs push grocery prices higher and higher, these people are going back and watching old clips of Kamala Harris on the campaign trail. And they're realizing, with a sinking feeling, that she told them exactly what was going to happen. This is Alex Harper, and welcome back to Signal Feed. So today, we're going to do something straightforward. We're going to look at what Kamala Harris actually said during the 2024 campaign. Then we're going to look at what's actually happened since, and you can decide for yourself whether the woman America rejected was the one who had it figured out all along. Let's start with the big one, the war. In 2019, years before she ever ran for president on the Democratic ticket, Kamala Harris sat down and talked about Donald Trump's approach to Iran. She didn't mince words. She said the president was motivated by personal insecurities, not national security. She warned that any military escalation with Iran would be avoidable and that the consequences for American soldiers would be tragic. Fast forward to February 28, 2026. The United States and Israel launched coordinated airstrikes on Iranian military sites, nuclear facilities, and government targets, including an assassination strike on Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. According to reporting from the BBC and multiple international outlets, the strikes were launched during active negotiations between the US and Iran. Iran responded by closing the Strait of Hormuz, launching missile and drone strikes against US bases and allied countries across the Middle East, and the entire region spiraled into the broadest military conflict the area has seen in decades. As of this week, ceasefire talks are stalling. Iran's foreign ministry has denied plans for direct negotiations with American envoys. Trump extended the ceasefire deadline, but the naval blockade of Iranian ports continues, and Hezbollah has escalated its strikes on Israel, with satellite imagery showing entire neighborhoods in southern Lebanon flattened. According to CNN, the destruction in towns like Bint Jbeil is consistent with systematic demolitions. Congress never formally authorized this war. That's not opinion. That's fact. Representatives Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie tried to invoke a discharge petition to block the unauthorized military action. It went nowhere. And here's what makes this sting even more. When Kamala Harris warned about exactly this scenario during the 2024 debate, MAGA influencers laughed. They called it hysteria. They called it clickbait. They said she had Trump derangement syndrome. One TikTok creator put it perfectly. He said people called us hyperbolic. They said we were trying to create hysteria. But when he watched that debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, he was sitting there saying to himself, she's 100% right. She's spot on. This is exactly what's going to happen. And it did. What makes the Iran situation even harder to stomach is that it didn't have to be a surprise. This wasn't some intelligence failure or unexpected provocation. Trump withdrew the US from the Iran nuclear deal back in 2018. He adopted a maximum pressure strategy. He assassinated Qasem Soleimani in 2020. The trajectory was visible to anyone paying attention. And Harris was paying attention. She said in 2019 that if Trump put the country on a path toward war with Iran, the consequences for young American soldiers would be absolutely unacceptable. She called the whole thing completely avoidable. Now American service members are deployed across the Middle East in an active combat zone. Gas prices have spiked because the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most critical shipping lanes on the planet, has been disrupted. According to analysis from RAND, Iran's closure of the strait has wreaked havoc on global energy markets and complicated any realistic path toward ending the conflict, and the administration's own officials can't even agree on what the goal of the war is.
Vice President Vance says it's not about regime change. Then Trump posts on social media asking why there wouldn't be regime change. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says one thing, the State Department says another. It's chaos dressed up as strategy. Al Jazeera reported that the U.S. is operating in what analysts call stark isolation. Unlike the 2003 Iraq invasion, where the U.S. at least assembled a coalition, this time only Israel is fully on board. The UK reportedly refused to allow the U.S. to use island bases for strikes on Iran, forcing B-2 bombers to fly 18-hour missions directly from the American mainland. That's not a coalition. That's desperation. And while all of this unfolds, remember what Kamala Harris was actually offering during the campaign. She stood on those debate stages and rally stages and told the American people she would walk into the Oval Office with a to-do list, not an enemies list. She said her focus would be bringing down the cost of living. She said she would give a middle-class tax cut to over 100 million Americans. She proposed the first ever federal ban on corporate price gouging for groceries. She talked about covering home care under Medicare so seniors could age with dignity in their own homes. She talked about lowering childcare costs and cutting taxes for small businesses. None of that happened. Instead, the country got a war nobody voted for and an economy that's bleeding jobs. Now let's talk about money, because that's where this gets personal for every American.
Kamala Harris was right about everything.
He will target and punish those who disagree with him or refuse to bend to his will. He calls these Americans the enemy within, and says that he would use the American military to go after American citizens. Journalists whose stories he doesn't like. Nonpartisan election officials who refuse to cheat by finding a few extra votes for him. Judges who insist on following the law instead of following him. It is for reasons like these that General Mark Milley, the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Donald Trump's top general, has called Trump, and I quote, fascist to the core. And it is clear Donald Trump is increasingly unstable and unhinged, and will stop at nothing to claim unchecked power for himself.
My next claim is that Harris would be a better president for immigration and the border than Donald Trump. Oh, hey, what's up?
Long time no see.
Yeah.
All right, so why would Kamala Harris be better than Trump on immigration?
Because I don't know if Trump even knows what's actually wrong with the border.
He doesn't know what do you mean by that?
I think that Republicans don't know what is happening right now with the problems with the immigration system. A lot of people think that the issue is with illegal immigration. It's not. The problem is that our asylum process is completely and totally broken right now. And the problem is the only way to rectify that is to change the laws governing, or at least some of the regulations governing the asylum process. And when there was a bill on the table to do so, Donald Trump blocked it to keep the border open for an election issue.
Hey, just real quick, can we just be honest about something? Just real motherfucker. I know it's hard for a lot of motherfuckers to even be honest, but can we at least be honest? Just for a quick. And can we at least agree? All of us. Can we at least motherfucking agree that black woman was right about fucking things she said? Can we at least agree that black woman, that she was right about every.
For everyone who didn't believe Kamala when she said if you give him power back, he's going to turn into a dictator. For everyone who didn't listen to Kamala when she said look at his policies, they're going to make prices go up. Now you can take his word for it. Over the weekend, first he said on Friday, I couldn't care less if they raise prices. I couldn't care less. I hope they raise their prices. No, I couldn't care less. Talking about the effects of his tariffs and the inflation they'll bring. And then today, Sunday, Trump won't rule out seeking a third term in the White House. He tells NBC News there are methods for doing so. When asked to clarify, no, I'm not joking. Great.
Without saying a bad thing about Trump, why should anyone out there vote for Kamala?
Great question. I think that Kamala Harris is a better candidate compared to Donald Trump for two main categorical reasons. policy and character. If we want to talk about character first, you know, like she's not a 34 count felon. She's not a proven sexual abuser. She's not a religious persecutor that tried to ban all new Muslims from coming into the country, right? She also stands for individualistic rights, freedoms, and liberties, right? She wants to fight to codify federal protections for a woman's right to choose, ensuring, right, that the family dynamic is safe and we're not forcing 18, 19, 20-year-old boys and girls to be parents. If we want to talk about policy, she wants to fight for the average working class American. She wants to reduce income inequities, right, by uplifting the low and the middle class. You know, we could also reference the fact that she wants to limit corporations from buying single family homes, you know, further ensuring that, you know, the younger generations especially can be a homeowner one day, and this will hopefully make that day sooner. We could reference how she wants to cap the amount of that any American citizen will pay out of pocket to buy pharmaceuticals to $2,000 a year, which is just a beautiful policy, keeping more money in the pockets of those that need it the most. And I mean, there's a plethora of other things that we could talk about here, but at the end of the day, I'd say why we should be voting for Kamala Harris is for progress, okay? You know, let's make our economy better. Let's care about that average American. Let's ensure, you know, basic human rights. And let's keep the guy that tried to stage a coup to overthrow the country in 2020 out of the office. You know, it's very simple.
Okay. Why should we?
I want to know why you support Kamala.
Kamala? Because I think she's a better option comparative to Donald Trump. We can reference her policy, the $6,000 child tax credit for the first year of a child's life, $3,600 through them being 5 years old, $3,000 through them being 18, $25,000 tax credit for first-time homebuyers for new homes, $2,000 cap on pharmaceuticals out of pocket, $35 cap on insulin per month.
What about the other stuff that's going around the world that actually matters? Something like men going into women's bathrooms.
Like Donald Trump barging into the changing rooms of girls in Miss Teen USA because he quote-unquote owns the place to inspect them
Donald
without their
Trump
consent.
does not want men using females' bathrooms.
Is that why he barged into the changing rooms of girls in Miss Teen
Donald
USA?
Trump does not want... No, that's why he's getting rid of men using females' bathrooms. That's just weird.
Really? Do you want to hear this clip?
What clip? Go ahead, play it.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you the funniest is that I'll go backstage before a show. Yes. And everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything else. And, you know, no men are anywhere. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant and therefore I'm inspecting it. You know, I'm inspecting. I want to make sure that
You know, during the 2024 presidential campaign, Trump and Kamala Harris offered voters dramatically different versions of America. People saw America differently through these two people. Trump campaigned heavily on immigration enforcement, economic nationalism, tax cuts, deregulations, and promised to put what is called America first. While on the other hand, Kamala Harris emphasized protecting abortion access, expanding economic opportunities for the working families, defending democratic institutions, and continuing many elements of the Biden administration agenda. And Americans had a choice. Trump ultimately won that election and became the today's president of America. And by winning an election does not automatically mean every voter will remain satisfied with the result. That is where political regret now begin. Because a voter supports a candidate because of one issue. Perhaps immigration, inflation, maybe taxes, or the foreign policies, only to discover that government decisions affect many other parts of everyday life. And that's the question that many Trump supporters are now wrestling with. Now, one of the biggest issues in American election is always the economy. And voters care about grocery prices, they care about the housing, they care about wages, they care about the healthcare, they care about employment and the overall cost of living in America. That he argue will strengthen American workers and the business. But we know economic outcomes are always complicated. Presidents don't personally control every prices in a supermarket. And inflation can be influenced by maybe the global energy prices, by maybe the supply chain, by maybe the interest rates, by maybe the wars, consumer demand, and even the decisions made years earlier. And that is why blaming or crediting one president for every economic change can be misleading. Still, voters judge presidents by what they experience. If families feel that life is not getting better, political loyalty can begin to weaken. And that is what's happening in America today. Immigration was another major reason millions of voters supported Trump. And MAGA supporters argue that Biden administration had failed to control the southern border and that Trump will take a much tougher approach. Now, Trump made immigration enforcement one of the central pillars of his campaign. But aggressive immigration policies can also create difficult questions. What happens to mixed status families? What happens to business that depend on immigrant workers? What happened to people who have lived in America for decades? And how should the government balance border enforcement with the process and humanitarian concerns? These are not simple questions. And some voters may also discover that the policies they supported in theory become much more complicated when it affects their community directly. Now, why are MAGA voters now regretting that they lost a candidate? What happens when voters discover that the political promises are much harder to deliver than campaign slogans make them sound? People must understand that election is not a sport terms. You don't have to support the same politician forever simply because he is from your race or he speaks the language that you want to understand. Voters can change their mind. Trump voters can become disappointed, and the independent voters can change their sides completely. And that is called democracy. So this is my question to you. If elections are called today and only two people stood or vied, Kamala Harris and Trump, who will you vote for? Please let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Of course, if you love this content, if you love this channel, subscribe, like, and share.